So yes, give thanks to the coming in. This is Lord Sage, Sage of the Seventh Path, Lord of the Perfect Black. I am here. I am here. I am here. I am here. Give thanks, for all the elder gods. So giving thanks to the elder gods at this moment, the ancient gods of ancient Africa, carry the symbols to signify themselves for different time of period, different periods of time, in life while we go through the trials and errors and fulfillment of life. So yes, so topic, the elder gods, the creation of mankind. We're gonna go all into it. What is the unseen, what is the seen. What is the unknown and what is the known. So yeah, so give thanks to the elder gods. So we're gonna get back to this. You understand? So we're gonna connect everything together like we always do. You understand? We're gonna connect everything and we're gonna draw a big picture, just like when you go to see a movie, you start to watch the movie from the beginning until the end, then you get the full comprehension. You get the full comprehension of the movie, the full message of the movie, right? So the same thing we're gonna do. So yes, so let's go. The elder gods. And we started by showing you this pic, and we're gonna get back to that. So yes. So what do we have here? We have Alexander the Freak, the homosexual, right? Alexander. Now Alexander is the first European to invade Kemet, first European to invade Africa. Why? Why is that? Why is Alexander the first European to invade Kemet, Egypt, Africa? Right? Why is he the first one? The reason why is that if you know anything about the out of Africa theory, the so-called theory, it is based upon the truth that Africans, who civilized nations, who developed sciences in all factions, right? In all aspects, we created science, given different levels of science. Everything is a science, but they're just different levels of science, right? So Africans developed science to such a degree that we created mankind. And this mankind is the European race, the Chinese race, and the Indian race. I'm just going to mention these three races in particular for now, right? I don't want to go too deep before we get lost in the whole picture. So the reason why Alexander the Greek, Alexander the Freak, Alexander the homosexual was the first European to invade Kemet is because these people were created in Europe. These people were created in Rome. And we're going back to the outer Africa theory when the Coptic Egyptian priests, as scientists, as missionaries, as historians, I should say, went in a quest on creating human beings on different parts of the world. That's how we get Chinese in the location that they are, and we get Europeans in the location that they are, and we get Indians in the location that they are, because we created them in these regions, right? So stick with me, right? We are figuring out why Alexander was the first white folk to invade Kemet. So we created these people in these specific locations where we find these specific types of people living on, the European, Chinese, Indians, right? So, but we are focusing on the Europeans for now. So the Europeans were created in Europe. So these people were created without having a writing system, because the way they were created, they had no writing system, they had no really no way of life. They they had no alphabet. They actually had no system of organization in the sense of civilization and development. Right? They had none of that because they were in the Dark Age in Europe, and all they did was conquering and killing and pillaging among themselves. That's where you get the term Vikings from, because the Vikings went all over Europe, which is Europe, going all over itself, conquering different parts of itself. You understand? And when they were finished conquering themselves and developing themselves in war and killing and raping and pillaging, they decided to come out of Europe now and invade the African countries where we find the elder gods. Right? Now, like I said, this is Alexander, and he is the first European to invade Kemet. And I just told you why. I just told you why he was the first European to invade Kemet, because these people were created in Europe, and they were cavemen, right? They were nomadic, they were warmongering, they were homosexuals, they will just name it. Everything you get in a chaotic society. Everything we get in a chaotic society, we'll get all this type of lifestyles within this chaotic society. So that's what this homosexual Alexander the Freak came from. So after they conquered Europe, which is their own, they were amongst their own, they decided to come out of Europe now and invade the African lands. Now keep in mind, I started by saying talking about the out of Africa theory. Africans left Africa and went out to populate the earth by way of engineering, creating different creatures and animals in different regions, all different parts of the earth, and we developed certain parts of the earth, right? So now this is a whole different topic, but I'm just giving you expression just to get you connected, right, to what I'm saying. So I'm going to discuss that side of it in the next video, because I have a lot to say concerning the Africans living Africa and going to develop the outer world, because we have enough great monuments, existing today, and no one has any idea how they were erected. You understand? So that's a whole different topic. So going back to Alexander the Great now, the Freak now. So the Africans out of Africa free, we the ones went to the different parts and developed these people, right? So, but we didn't develop them to such a degree yet. We didn't civilize them as yet, but they grew and flourished and became what they became. You understand? So Alexander the Great now was considered to be one of the first, he's considered to be one of the greatest warrior of all time in the European society. You understand? So since he conquered all of Europe and went out and conquered Egypt, he was the first to go into Egypt, and he actually conquered Egypt, right? And after he conquered Egypt, I should say, he didn't fully conquer Egypt, but they invaded, I should say, they invaded. And they brought enough of the principles and enough of the concepts into Kemet, right? So after Alexander the Great died, right? After he died, his missionaries, his soldiers, became the continuation of his quest. And his soldiers, closest soldiers to him, took provinces in the Egyptian area, the land of Africa. They conquered different parts of Africa. So that's where the Hellenistic, so from the time Alexander invaded Egypt, Kemet, this begun, however you want to put it, the Hellenistic era, Hellenistic period, right? That's where all different Hellenistic things took place, because we have these barbarians coming in with all of the custom and the ways which is homosexual and all this horrific type of thing that they indulge in. You understand? So they bring all that into Kemet, right? So this begins the Hellenistic period of Kemet. Now keep in mind, Alexander has died and his soldiers has taken over. And one of his soldiers, which is closest to him, we should go to his pick right now. This is Ptolemy the First, Soter. Soter means Messiah. So this homosexual Ptolemy the First, this homosexual now, he became Alexander the Frick successor in a way, because he became the first pharaoh, I should say, of the Hellenistic period. This is where we get the term Ptolemy, the Ptolemies. So he specifically was one of Alexander's highest officials, where he specifically had relationship, very close relationship with Alexander, meaning that they were homosexuals, and Alexander had him for himself since he was a young boy. So just imagine this young boy growing up in homosexuality from a small. Actually, this is Roman tradition. This is Greece traditions, right? The homosexuals from since they are children, they become homosexual. This is Greece. That's why you name Greece Greece, because you need Greece to go between a man's buttocks in Greece. So this is where they name the capital or whatever, Greece. You understand? So this is the first Ptolemy, the first king of Egypt in the Hellenistic period. Now this dude now, like this homosexual now, so we understand that these are barbarians coming out of Greece and Rome and all these different places named in the same country, right? So all these Caucasians, homosexual Caucasians, they are coming out with all the barbaric ways, coming into Kemet now. Kemet is a well highly civilized nation. This is the place of the elder gods. This is Kemet is where they practice the traditions of the elder gods. But the elder gods is from the higher region, right? The elder gods are from the higher region, but Kemet is where everybody come to practice the traditions of the elder god, the long lasting traditions of the elder god that's passed down from generation to generation. And Kemet is the explosion of that, right? Kemet is actually the explosion of all these higher science of the elder gods spreading itself through Africa. So Kemet is the higher development of that. Now just imagine these barbarian Europeans are coming into Kemet and seeing God for the first time, seeing the practice of worshipping God. Yeah, it was worship. You understand? It was worship. So just imagine these barbarians coming in Syria, erecting all these relics, all these monuments of our ancient ancestors, the elder gods, and giving homage unto the animals, and just our whole spiritual system of practice. It was a whole spiritual system of practice created by the blacks, developed by the blacks, started by the blacks. You understand? It was a tradition, because spirituality is a act, is something you practice. You understand? It has rituals, it has orders to it, it has principles, it has everything. This is why religion is birthed out of that, and that's why religion is so strong. You understand? Because religion is a copy of the spirituality of the ancient Africans. So we see that no matter what you do in life, you must have an organized system where you learn how to give praise unto the elder gods. You must have that system. So no matter how much truth you think you have, because what I realize people do nowadays, they take pieces of the truth and run away with it and mull up their own God, right? So they'll take piece of the mechanism of the whole, the foundation, and they run with it, and they create their own God, right? And we learn it doesn't work like that. You gotta have the whole foundation, you gotta have the whole complete thing to actually connect. If you're gonna take peace and just consider that peace of God, you're not gonna have the full effect of what you're really supposed to be. You understand? Yeah. So going back to I just lost myself because I went too deep. So going back to the elder gods and praising the elder gods, and must having a system now to actually so this tells us that religion is only a mere copy of the spiritual system, right? It's only a copy. So we mustn't be spooky around these areas, because this is the reason why there are many systems. There are many systems in the Rastafari community. There are many systems within the Christianity community, in Islam community, in all communities, the Hebrew community, all communities. There are many systems because everyone is searching for the right practice, because there is the original practice. There is original practice because it's a spiritual practice, and a spiritual practice doesn't mean you just gotta be in your own zone, just losing your mind away. It's an organization. It's a come together because it's a kingdom being run. I just say Kemet was different kings running different times of period. So it's a system that is being passed down from generation to generation. So it must be organized and centralized. Just look at the pyramids and the structure of the pyramids and where you lay. It's an organized construction. It's an organized engineered construction. They had to organize to actually build the pyramids and put everything in its correct place. So we see everything got to be organized. So there's nothing wrong with being organized. You understand? So let's get back to this Ptolemy. So this homosexual Ptolemy now, he, so yeah, like I was saying, just imagine these Crackozoids coming in and seeing God for the first time, and all this high science is going to freak them out. This is literally going to freak these crackers out. These crackers want to come in now and try to be like the gods and erect all the ways of the immoralities and all the incest and all the corruption ways. They will want to intrude this into African culture because they want to be part of African culture, because they're seeing God for the first time and seeing, because these people just pop out into life. And when they pop out into life, life was way advanced, way more advanced than them. So obviously they are going to become jealous, and they obviously will want to be a part of it. And keep in mind, they're warmongering, they're killing, they're robbing, they're stealing, they're doing all this. Is all part of Greece and Rome nature, right? This is all part of the nature, and they're coming into a godland now and seeing all this high science taking place. So of course they want to be part of it. Of course they want to take over because they are warmongering. He's on a quest to conquer. So he's reaching in his God area now, and he's in his high society. Of course, he will want to infuse himself within the society of the ancient Africans, which are the Egyptians, the Kemet. Alright? So when this homosexual was refused, he was refused by the section of the foundation of the black Africans who run the system, the world of Egypt. He was refused. So since he was refused now, because they wanted to erect themselves as monuments in Kemet to so people could worship just like we worship our ancestors. But we never allowed them because they ain't the gods. You know, they was not like the gods, they ain't the gods, so we are the gods. So how could we let them come in and infuse themselves like they are the gods? They look nothing like us. You understand? They was not us. So that got them furious. And so what Ptolemy did, since he was now the emperor of this Hellenistic period, he closed all the temples down of the society, the ancient Coptic priests and people that were living in that time, the black Africans, who developed the system. So let me put that in there. The people who developed the system, they were separated into two factions, right? The faction that supported the Ptolemies and the faction that did not support the Ptolemies. So the Ptolemy now, Ptolemy, this homosexual Ptolemy now, he closed down all the temples in ancient Kemet, right? He closed down all the temples because y'all won't erect my homosexual depiction of God. So I'm going to close all the temples. I'm going to prevent y'all from practicing your spirituality. So it was said that since he closed down all the temples, that the Egyptians now, the black Africans that didn't sided with them, decided to practice their worship at their homes or in the funeral places and different stuff like this. They started practicing in the home because all the temples was closed down. So when all the temples was closed down, this homosexual erected his temple, right? But we're not going to get into that right now. So they closed all the temples down because they wouldn't erect their God. And keep in mind, these are barbarians. They have no alphabet, they have no writing system. All what is being done for them at this time of period is by the ancient Coptic Egyptians. The ancient Coptic Egyptians are the ones who helped them to get into the society of the African society that controlled Kemet. So the Coptic Egyptians helped these Ptolemies to come in within the political realm, where the Ptolemies supported the Coptic Egyptians that were different from the other, the main group of Egyptians that were in the system. So the Ptolemies now, the white folks, stood on the sidelines and helped, the black Africans that sided with them to help them come within the system of the ancient Egyptians. This is how they came in. Politically, they played the political game. You understand, like we see everywhere, just like how they control us in the Western world. They have black people running being the prime ministers of the Caribbean countries, while Greece and Rome and the English queens and them in their region control it from far. You understand? So it's the same thing there behind the curtains running the show. So the same role the Ptolemies played with the Coptic Egyptians, they stayed on the sidelines and influenced and sided with these Ptolemies, these ancient Coptic Egyptians. Now them ancient Coptic Egyptians now, and before I get into that actually, let me continue on this Ptolemy before I move on. Alright, before I move on. So Ptolemy, he closed down the temples, right? He closed down the temple and decided to influence his Christianity. This is of Greece, the Christianity, the traditions they had within Greece. They started to spread it. The Serapis movement, right? Because Serapis plus Ptolemy the First, they were fused together to create the character what we call Jesus, the Jesus character, the Christ character within the Roman theology, within the Roman system, because they wanted to be like the gods. So they created their own gods. The Coptic Egyptians, the black Africans, Coptic Egyptians helped them develop their own system with their own god based upon the original gods that was existing at that time, right? So this is what this Ptolemy did. He closed down all the temples, erected their own temple, and taught themselves. So we're going to move on. We're going to go to this, right? So all in this time, these Greeks are illiterate, right? They don't write. They have no writing system. They have no printing system. They have no alphabet. Everything is done by the Coptic Egyptians. They're writing, doing everything, because everything comes from Africa. All the writing people come from Africa. Everything comes from Africa. Africa, they have the high civilization. So we actually developed, the Coptic black Egyptians actually developed these Ptolemies, right? So let's move on. So this is the Council of Ephesus. Ephesus, right? They will pronounce it different, right? So Ephesus, or Ephesus, or Ephesus, whatever. So so this council is all about. So after the Ptolemy, let me go back to the Ptolemy. After he closed down all the temples, the ancient Coptic Egyptian priests created a temple actually even before they created the temple, they had a council, right? Keep in mind the starting of the Hellenistic period, right, where this Crackerzoid began rule was the same time where Christianity began to spread, right? So these Crackerzoid and the Serapis figure that was taken from Greece, which was taken from Osiris, which is a seer, they wanted to give it a living essence, a sense of reality, because it was all made up by the Coptic Egyptian priests who was devising to create these people a god. So they took the essence of Osar, which is Osiris, going down to Serapis. They took the essence of the reality of that, the reality of Osar, passed it down through Osir to Osiris, passed down. They took the spirit of that and incorporated it with this figure right here, which is Ptolemy, to give it a sense of reality, to make it actual living. So this council of Ephesus was a council where these crackers and the Coptic Egyptian Africans came together to actually debate. These crackers actually debate for over 1,000 years whether they debated whether to make this Christ figure an actual living being, right? Or what the figure is going to be. They debated what the figure is going to be, and what's going to be the outcome. So, as we could see in this depiction right here, I'm going to take a break. Alright? I'll be black. So yes, I'm black, you know. Had a little interruption, so I'm black. So yeah, so like I was saying, this Council of Ephesus, right? It's all about these crackers and the Coptic black Egyptians. Now the Coptic black Egyptians, you're the one who was running the systems of these Ptolemies in certain factions, because they're the ones that was actually teaching the Ptolemies, right? So the Ptolemies now gave these Coptic Egyptians certain positions within their factions, within their society. So keep in mind, these Coptic Egyptians, right? They mingle and had sex with the Europeans, so they were all into the Europeans, right? So this is how the Europeans actually got their wear from, the custom of clothes and everything, because we intermingle with them. They use the Coptic Egyptians now, the black Africans. They use their systems, which is the African system, to devise the European system. We understand that already, right? Because Europe was in the Dark Ages, right? Because as you could see down here, how they dressed. The common people didn't dress like that. It's only the people in the high-ranking positions dress like that, right? This is the Council of Ephesus, right? This is the council where they came to the decision, the black Coptic Egyptians, where they come to the decision of actually making this Christ figure, right? That's what they debated and actually come to the conclusion of making the Christ figure, right? So after that now, so recognize I'm not giving any dates, because if you want dates, you could go right to the Wikipedia. You could go to Wikipedia and you're going to find all the dates and everything. So I don't have time to go into all the dates and give out all the dates and everything, right? So, all right, so we're continuing. So yeah, so it's all about, so this particular time period now is all of the Council of Ephesus. It's all about the crackers coming to the conclusion with the Christ, with the Serapis going to the Ptolemy, creating the figure, right? So we have a good understanding. Now I want you to keep in mind and look closely how these characters are dressed, the way that they are clothed, right? They are clothed according to the elder gods, the traditions from the elder gods. Because keep in mind, the traditions from the elder gods now went down the Nile into Kemet, right? The traditions, right? The dress code and everything went down the Nile, right? Because when you look on the walls, wait a minute. What's going on here? Malware. So anyway, so when you look at the traditions of the elder gods coming from the higher regions, you know, the higher heavens, you see that the traditions of Kemet, when you look on the walls of Kemet, we see that it don't resemble these where. Something is happening here. I'm going to pause and I'm going to be black. I'm having some difficulties. I'm going to pause and I'm going to be black, right? Black again. So yes, black again. So I was saying, when you look up, when you watch and you look, and you see the clothing wear, you know, because we know Europe, they had no science. They had no writing systems. They had no civilization in a development way to their levity, right? So they didn't dress like that, right? They dressed like this, right? They dressed like this. So this was only given to the high ranking, right? So this didn't come from them. So when we look on the walls, we don't see this type of dressing. The only place we see this type of dressing comes from is from the higher region, which is Ethiopia, right? Which is the higher heaven, right? Now these Greeks, they decided to conquer the heaven from the lower region. They decided to travel from the lower celestial Nile, because the Nile represents the Milky Way galaxy also, because traveling the Nile, you're also traveling the cosmos. We'll get into that a little more, you know. So as we move along, so yeah, so when we look at the where, the only place it resembles is Ethiopia, right? And we're going to see where it comes from, right? We're going to see where these traditions come from, because keep in mind, the tradition left Ethiopia, went down and blew up in Kemet, the region we call Kemet. All the powers of Africa came together and blew up in Kemet, and Kemet civilized the world. That's where the term civilization of the world comes from, because of Kemet. And when we look into civilizing, it means creating people and developing people and giving them places to stay and civilizing them to a standard of human beings. Mankind, what we call mankind today. That's what it comes to, that's what it is. You understand? You cannot civilize a people that you did not create. You understand? Black would only produce black. So when we say we civilize races, that means these people didn't come from us directly. Because anybody who comes from us directly, they will be civilized automatically. You understand? If your father is a king, you become a prince. You understand? If your father is a king, you become a prince when you're born. So how come black people are saying all races come from black people, but they don't know how it happened? You understand? So if these races came from us literally by way of sex, where two black people come together, which is a natural thing, they would look like us, they would resemble us, they would be kings and they would be princes and princesses coming from kings and queens. You understand? But that wasn't the case. These people were created by way of engineering. That's why they were barbarians, right? That's why they had no speech. That's why they had to learn how to speak and walk and talk and how to dress. You understand? This is how they used to dress. And when they popped up into the world, we were like, you understand, it was a high way of dressing. This is why the high ranking part of them took on the traditions of the dressing, the dress code. This is where really Christ, the image started, right? This is where it started at this council. And from this council, right, they developed the first church. And we're going to move on to the first church. So keep in mind that I said the clothing, keep in mind, keep the clothing example in your mind, because we're going to make the connections as we go along. Right? We're going to make the connections as we go along. Now keep in mind too, the people who is organizing all this is the black Egyptian Coptic priests. The black Egyptian Coptic priests. They're the one organizing this council. They're the one debating and figuring out whether this character is a real character and whether to make it Christ or not. Right? Because they're debating the spirit of Serapis coming from Osiris with Ptolemy. You understand? So they are debating whether to make it a Christ or not, and this is the level. So we're going to move on, right? The Council of Ephesus. Alright? So we here, right? This is the Europeans' first university, first school, and first church, all in one, right? Created by the black African Coptic priests. Keep in mind, the African black Coptic priests, these priests were scientists. They were developing all aspects of science, in building, in spirituality, in every aspect you could think of, in every subject that you could think of. These Egyptian Coptic priests who broke off from the main branch, who went and sided with the Ptolemies to build up their world. And keep in mind, back once Alexander conquered and the Ptolemies became the king, and they developed the Christ figure, and they built the first school. Keep in mind, right after that, they kept on building schools, but we're going to get to that. So this is the first European school, right? First European school, church and university and everything. This is where the Africans taught the Ptolemies, the Greeks, the European, the Italians, all of them. They're all the same, right? They're all the same, right? This is where they were taught, and the people who taught them were the black African Coptic priests. They were the teachers at these schools, right? The Africans were the teachers at these schools. They are the one who built the place, because they were the only engineers at this time. The Europeans were barbarians. The Europeans had no way of writing. They had no alphabet. You understand? They could hardly speak. You understand? That's the traditions that they came from. They're nomadic people. They were Mauryan people. They developed in the war, where they would just attack you unannounced. That's where the whole concept of the Viking came from. They will just those white folks, they will just reach in the shores and they will just kill and just rape and pillage whatever society that they find. You understand? Whatever people that they find when they invaded these coastal islands and their own region. They did that first, actually, before they went out. So this is the first school for the Europeans, as we could see, right? This is where they were taught. The Hagia Sophia. In present day today, it's a museum. A museum. These words are so funny. You understand? So these so we see who are the originators of Christianity. You understand? Keep in mind we're discussing the elder gods. So this African Egyptian museum. I was having trouble pronouncing the word, you know. My mind went so far. A museum. It's a museum in this present day, right? So these African Coptic Egyptian priests, which are also scientists and historians and adventurers and because they're the one who adventure out to civilize and and build schools for Europeans. And this school is built in Turkey. This is in Europe. You understand? Greece. You know, that's why the first school for the Europeans were built. It was built in their place. You understand? Keep in mind that these Coptic Egyptian priests who crossed over, they mingled and mixed with the Europeans. And the Europeans in return gave them high position in their society. You understand? So that is the deal that was going on there, just like we have today with our so-called celebrities. They are being bought for the talent to actually pollute millions of people on a large platform. You know, they buy them out. So they're working for the Ptolemies. You understand? So these Ptolemies now, which are the Roman Empire today, because they are still existing. This is the Ptolemies existing. Keep in mind, the Romans now, they still keep on the tradition of the wig. As you see, they have revised it many times, but you could still trace it back to African, Ethiopian garments, which are the royalty of the African world nation. So these Coptic African Egyptians now, they build this Hagia Sophia, you understand, and taught the white folks all the science. Because remember, they closed down the temples and they took out all the scrolls and the scribes of the ancient of the elder gods. This was the information that was kept in Kemet, the information of the elder gods, where the information came from, right? So keep in mind, Alexander the Great was the first to invade, the first Caucasoid, and we explain why they were the first, right? One of his main character closest to him became Ptolemy the First, which is his homosexual partner, right? Now this is just the celestial heavens, right? This is just the lower celestial level. This is just the lower celestial Nile. So they started to conquer from the lower Nile, going up to the higher heavens, going up to the cosmos, right? Because as above, so below. The earth is the perfect representation of the universe, the cosmos, or what's within the universe. So as we could see, you could link Kemet with Mars, because there's said to be pyramid on Mars, and Mars is also a desert-like area. And as we could see, Kemet is a desert-like area, which was said to have water once. Mars was said to have water once. You understand? And now it's a desert. So Kemet is a desert, and there's a pyramid. So you can make the link up, but we'll go more into this in more videos, more in details. You understand? So let's continue. So the Africans created Christianity. The Coptic Egyptian priests who broke out from the main branch of Egyptian priests. And these priests were in the high development of all science and all faction, all aspects and all subjects, right? All subjects, right? All subjects is the essence what you need to develop a society, or you need to develop and civilize, right? So Rome was building schools all over, right? So after this school was built, right? After this school was built, they had the next consul, which is the consul of, let me see if I could get this consul. This is the consul of Chalcedon, right? Consul of Chalcedon. And the consul of Chalcedon is where they have the consul where they come to the full, where they came to the full conclusion of making this Christ figure a real person, and it marked the beginning of spreading the word, spreading the Christ figure, the word of this Christ being the Son of God and being a real figure. Because at that time, schools were already outbursts from the Hagia Sophia. They kept on building schools. Now, these crackers debated for 1,000 years, like it was said, right? They debated for 1,000 years in the Council of Chalcedon whether this character, and they came to the conclusion from Ephesus to Chalcedon, they debated 1,000 years. And they finally came to the conclusion at Chalcedon to make this a real character and start to publish it at worldwide, right? Worldwide, right? So at that time, schools were being published all over. You understand? So after 1,000 years now, from Ephesus to Chalcedon, right? After 1,000 years, schools and everything start to build because they had come to the conclusion at that point in Chalcedon. So schools and everything had to build after this, right? Going into the Renaissance era, after 1,000 years, going into the Renaissance era, where Europeans were learning on a mass level. They were learning subjects on a mass level. Keep in mind, Ephesus, the Sophia, Hagia Sophia, this is just for the high-ranking Ptolemies, the high-ranking people of that time period. But the Renaissance era is when the schools were multiplied throughout the areas of Rome, Greece, Italy, whatever you want to call it, and it became the Renaissance era where Europeans were learning Christianity and history on a mass level. Now this is also the creation of history also, the point of creation for history also, right? It's in the Renaissance era. Let me see if I could find this is the Renaissance era, right? Where mass information was being disseminated throughout the Europeans, right? By different schools that the Coptic African Egyptian priests helped them build, right? So everything was being published on a mass level. So history was now incorporated to the Bible. History was now called the Bible, actually. It was being translated through the Bible, through the traditions that they have put together, through all the different councils and all the information from the ancient scrolls and everything. You understand? They were putting all of these things together. So we could see everything that the Europeans did was a mere copy. So the Europeans didn't create the concept of God. So we mustn't get confused in the concept of God, even though we didn't use the word God today, but we still use the word God to explain what we mean back then. So it's not a problem, right? So it doesn't matter who created it. So what I'm saying now, we could see where the Europeans now took everything from the Africans. Because here we have a people just jumping out of life, popping out of life on the earth and have nothing. And here is this advanced race, which are the gods, the black elder gods, have everything, right? And they want to, these Europeans who just come up in life, they want to build a world. They have nothing else for them to grab from. There is nothing else for them to take from. So the only thing there is for them to take from is the black Africans, but the black Africans are the only ones that existed. The black Africans are the only ones who developed science because we're the only ones on planet Earth. You understand? So the Europeans had nobody else to take from except the black Africans. That's why they rip and pillage and steal from the Africans to build every concept with help of the Coptic Egyptian priests who sided from the main branch of the priests of Africa, the priests and priestess from Africa. You understand? So we could see where the God concept, where the religion concept come from, where the spiritual garments of wearing come from, all the traditional dressing. We could see where the Pope dressing in this day. We could see where all these things come from. It comes from ancient Ethiopia, where the higher regions were brought it down to Kemet. You understand? So as we could see, going back to the Council of Ephesus, as we could see, the garments, these are not the garments of the Europeans. Europeans and them, they were not civilized. They were not they were not at the level of designing clothes at high material levels, you understand, with gold and everything in them. They were not at that level. It's only the high-ranking Coptic Egyptian priests who had it. And later on, it was passed on to the Europeans. But as you could see, the Europeans didn't have it. As you could see how they were dressing. They just wrapped themselves with pieces of cloth. This is how the Europeans dress. This is how we dressed them when we created them in the Caucasus Mountains, in the European mountains. We just gave them pieces of cloth to wear. And they took out the pieces of cloth from them and they went into the caves and lived with bats, rats, and animals and This is how they grew out of the caves and became warmongering and developed. You understand? This is the story of the caveman reality. The places that everybody would place in the region. They were hunter-gatherers before they developed into the warmongering nation that they became. And when conquering, as Alexander the Great being one of the greatest conquerors who went out to conquer the regions of the elder gods who created them from long ago. You understand? This is the same way where from ancient Ethiopia. Ancient Ethiopia will represent the high regions of the cosmos where we refer to the Orion, and star Sirius and all these things. All these things is a mere image on earth. All the cosmos and all the mystics of the heavens declare the glory. It's a mere image on earth. We are manifesting all the celestial travels through the earth. When we travel through the earth, we are actually traveling through the cosmos. Right? We are jumping from planet to planet by jumping from land to land. We are jumping from planets to planet. Right? Traveling the space. We're traveling space right here on earth. Right? So later on, we keep in mind we're discussing the elder gods, right? The tradition of the elder gods. Who are the elder gods? And at the end of this video, we're going to show the elder gods, and we're going to make the connection who the elder gods is in this time, right? And we're going to make the connection by the symbols of the traditions, right? Because we know from time to time we go through reincarnation, you're going to see the same physical structure, right? So we could identify the elder gods by the symbols that they carry, the traditions that they carry, the things that they do. That's how we connect the elder gods in this time to the old times. In antiquity, time of antiquity, right? Ancient time, the old times of the elder gods, from since time of Ethiopia, the ancient times of Ethiopia, before we went down the celestial Nile, before we traveled through the cosmos, traveling through space and going down to different galaxies and different planets, when we went down to Kemet, right? So yes, so we're moving on, right? So we are touched on Hagia Sophia, right? We touched on Hagia Sophia, and it was created by the Africans. So the Africans, Coptic Africans, Egyptian Africans. That's why we have the Coptic Orthodox Church in Ethiopia. It's all connected. So we're going to see how it was connected on the next slide, right? We're going to see how Ethiopia was invaded. Ethiopia had never been conquered, but it was invaded. So though you're not conquered, but you're invaded, so the conquerors are still getting the work done by influencing, right? That's what invading all about. So though they didn't conquer, but they invaded and still got their point across, right? So we're gonna go to so we are leaving Hagia Sophia right now, right? So I explained this already. So we're moving on to this homosexual cracker now. We're moving on to this homosexual cracker, right? I wanted to make a point on Ptolemy also, but I kind of forgot. So I'm gonna go to this cracker right here, right? This homosexual cracker. Now this is Saint Frumentius, the apostle of, I won't say the rest. So this was the first bishop of Axum. This is a cracker, right? And this cracker left this Tyre, which is how do you call that this place? Tyre is in Lebanon. So this cracker is from Lebanon, Tyre, right? So this cracker with his brother, I can't remember his brother's name. So if you want to find out all the details, you go to Wikipedia and Wikipedia, whatever the name is. I can't remember, but you go to that and you'll find out all the information, all the details, right? But this cracker left Lebanon, Tyre, with his brother, traveling with his uncle, right? So these adventurers, they are adventuring because at this point, right? By this point, Rome is fully expanding and starting to spread out through Africa, through the lower regions, right? Because remember, you cannot start from the high region because it's too high. So you're gonna start from the low and go work yourself up to the high region, because if you try and go to the high region, you'll be killed one time. So these crackers now left from the lower regions, spreading themselves out through Africa, conquering Africa. So they were adventurers. This is Frumentius, right? He's the first bishop of Aksum. Now, Ethiopia has never been conquered. Now, Egypt was the first place to be conquered, right? Now, these crackers have not ventured to the Upper Nile. They have not ventured to the cosmos, because the cosmos is a vast area, right? So they have not jumped from planet to planet, which is land from land, right? So they started from the lower region going up. So Alexander was the first cracker to invade Africa, right? So when these crackers got comfortable and started to move on through the Celestial Nile, the Upper Nile, this cracker in particular went on a quest with his uncle. And it was said that when this cracker reached the lands of Ethiopia, we could say Aksum, the shores of Aksum, that his whole entire entourage, or his whole entire crew, was wiped out by the Aksum king and his army. The king who was king at that time period wiped out this cracker here crew. The whole crew was wiped out except him and his brother, right? So his whole crew was wiped out except him and his brother. And so they were took as war captive, because these adventurers, they were missionaries coming from Rome, and they decided to discover the upper part of the cosmos, which is the Celestial Nile. So while they were traveling, they were spreading the word of their Christianity, their fake God, right? So when they end up on the shores of Aksum now, Aksum is a high developed society. And they have their monarchs and their kings going back to who knows when. You understand? So these two crackers were taken in as war captive now. And they didn't kill them. They were the only one who survived. So it was said that they grew favor of the king, right? And the king gave them certain positions. Now, since the king gave them certain positions, they had the privilege to actually practice their so-called cracker religion, right? And start to actually infest the long-lasting ancient traditions of the elder gods that was practicing in Aksum at that time. So these crackers began to spread the missionary work. So we see where missionary work began. It began with this cracker right here, Frumentius the apostle. You understand? After they conquered Egypt, they started to spread out and spread their invasion work. I call it again. I just used the word a while ago, but I forgot it. Yeah. So missionary work. They started to spread their missionary work, which is this gospel, or they make up Christ, which is only a replica of, only a mere image or mere practice revised and translated from the African spiritual system. So just like they revised the Bible and translated the Bible, they revised and they translated the African system also. The way, the culture, they revised it and changed it also. But it's a mere image of African spirituality, right? So these crackers now grew favor of the king. The king promoted them, right? They started to spread their religion, right? Now it was said that this, when the king almost died, was almost at the point of death, that he set these crackers free, right? So after the king died, he set these crackers free, but the queen now of the king that died choose to keep these crackers around to actually have them continuing teaching the false philosophy, because these crackers actually got to a level where they even converted the kings and queens, you understand? Certain kings, you understand? So the queen kept them around to actually teach their people, right? The whole Christian liberty and everything, right? So after the queen also died, I think they left, right? They said that they left and they went back to Rome. To tell Rome, not Rome actually, but went back to Greece and Alexandria in particular. They went back to Alexandria, which was the capital of Egypt at that moment, controlled by the Ptolemies, which is the Hellenistic period, right? So this cracker, Frumentius, went back to tell his tale of missionary conquest back to Alexandria. So when he went back to Alexandria, he told of his tale, and he told about the great kings that he met, and his story, the complete story, because these people were advanced people in Aksum. You understand? So these crackers saw that as a perfect opportunity now to go back to Aksum now and to infiltrate and take the customs and take it for themselves and to erect their gods within the Aksum traditions, the Ethiopian traditions. Because Aksum is the capital of Ethiopia, right? Lalibela, right? So yes, so we see how Christianity was infiltrated in Aksum and then Ethiopia, right? The whole of Ethiopia, how this is the beginning of the Christianity in Ethiopia, because it started in Egypt, Kemet first, and it went up the cosmos, right? So this cracker is going back to Alexandria. Now at that time, the high-ranking bishop in Alexandria was the next cracker, but we weren't going to the next cracker, right? So this cracker right here is telling the high-ranking bishop that he wants to become a bishop so he could go back to Aksum to finish his missionary work, to actually convert these people, because these people have a high civilization and they need to erect God there also just like how they erected their God in Kemet and conquered. So they have to go into Aksum now and spread the word, the gospel word of the crackers, of the Europeans, of the Crackerzoids, of the Ptolemies, of Greece, of Italy, you know, of so many names that go to these aliens, right? So yes, so we're moving on. So yeah, so this is the beginning of the invasion of Christianity into Aksum in Ethiopia. So this is why, right? This is why we are seeing. Let me go back to this. The clothing wear. This is the same clothing wear in Ethiopia, Aksum. Remember the tradition left Ethiopia and went down to Kemet, right? Went down to Kemet. That's way before the Ptolemies came into the Alexander the Great came there. When he came, he found all these traditions, all these high quality wear garments. Yes, sir. And the Coptic Egyptian priests who sided with them developed their system and taught them and mingled with them and gave them our same wear. You understand? So yeah, so going back to Frumentius, right? So this cracker, homosexual cracker, he's responsible for bringing Christianity into Aksum, Ethiopia, right? That's why we have all this Christianity in Ethiopia, and they mingle the truth with the reality of Ethiopia, right? That's what they did. So the Bible is a mere mix-up truth with events and historical events here, and some historical events, and what should I say? Because what make the Bible come alive is these crackers, right? These crackers formulating from the original scripts, right? Which is the ancient scrolls that they confiscated when they closed down the temples, right? So this is what the Bible, that's what the Bible comes out of. right? So they take the truth, they revise it, they mix it, they put in the lies because they have to create their own system for themselves. So the system that they're creating for themselves, they mix it with the truth, they revise it, they mix it up, and they create what we have, the Bible. Right? That's why today when the people who knows the truth, people like the Rastafari, specifically group, the specific group which is called the Bobo Shanti, the Ichiba Africa Black International Congress, they are the most versed when it comes to the Bible. They give the most reasonable and realistic understandings of the Bible when we use the Bible. As you see, the Bible is a world famous book. Everybody go in the Bible to even refute the Bible or to explain everything from the Bible. Because what the Bible comes from the ancient African scrolls. So it has some truth to it. So to say the Bible doesn't have no truth to it is false. It's actually false because the Bible was created by the Egyptian African Coptic priests. They took what was existing in reality to formulate the Bible. So the Bible comes from truth. So when somebody who knows the whole truth comes and look into the Bible, they could see where everything comes from. So it's not a trouble for them, it's not a problem for them. So that's why the Bobo Shanti specifically is still using the Bible today in their ceremonies. Right? This is why we're still using the Bible today in our ceremonies, because we understand that we are slaves, we are slave captives. Now keep in mind, when all what I've explained is happening, we are not yet brought into slavery. We are still in the Western world. We are not yet brought into slavery. Slavery comes after, right? So when you understand the Bible is comprised of all this truth mixed with European lies and everything, there, when somebody who knows the whole truth now could watch the Bible and actually pick out the truth from the Bible and show you the difference. So that's why Bobo Shanti were the best well-known decoders of the Bible when it comes to reality, and everything that's going on. Right? We could pick out the truth because we are from foundation. We know the foundation that the Bible came from. So the Bible is not a problem for us that we have to throw it in the garbage bin. So because if we had to throw the Bible in the garbage bin, we had to throw many books that were created by the European that we use today to validate things. We had to throw them in the garbage bin also. So it's just being ignorant on that part. So we could recognize what the Bible is without being so ignorant. You understand? So we're going to move on, right? Because when we reclaim our full power and we reclaim our dominion on earth and everything, we're going to create our own Bible. We're going to create our own scrolls and scripts of what took place or whatever we want to do. We're going to create it ourselves, right? If we really and truly need a Bible, right? Because the Bible is to me is a physical man. We have to become the Bible as a physical man, you know? So it's a real aspect of a Bible, a physical man. So yes, so moving on. So this is the cracker that is responsible for creating Christianity in Aksum, right? This is the crack. Right? So we're going to move on. We have explained enough. The Council of Chalcedon, where they finally came to the conclusion, right? And started to spread. They debated for 1,000 years, you know. They came to the conclusion. And after the 1,000 years, they started to spread the word and it became the Renaissance era. Alright? Or Europeans were learning on the mass level, public level. Everybody was learning. Right? So moving on. I'm going to take a break and drink some water. And I'm going to be black, right? I'm going to be black. So now, so this is Aksum, right? And that's the exact place where this Crackozoid came to invade. And as you could see, Aksum, we are left with this, where we could see the high level of engineering when it comes to building structures, right? The high level of engineering in Aksum. And that's what we're left with today, right? This is the same place where this, let's get this cracker name again. Yes. Frumentius. This is Saint Frumentius. This is the same cracker. I came into Axum, right? And influenced the Christianity where eventually took over the whole of Ethiopia. So that's where we have so much Christianity within Ethiopia today in its present day, right? So we see Ethiopia now is the land of the elder gods. It's the land of the elder gods, and Ethiopia now has a very old, long-lasting heritage, long-lasting, how should I say it, lifespan, meaning that in Ethiopia specifically, the traditions go back for millions and millions of years. I mean, no one could really bring a start to it. This is the high regions. Because keep in mind I said that as above, so below, the heavens declare the glory of God. We are actually acting out the celestial realms right here on the planet Earth. Planet Earth is a mere image of the celestial realms, the cosmos. Africa is a mere image or certain parts of the cosmos. And we learn that when you travel the celestial Nile, the Milky Way galaxy, there is alone the high region. You understand? Now Ethiopia is the highest region. You understand? So the knowledge left Ethiopia. So the knowledge left Ethiopia now and traveled down the celestial Nile. And they flourish. Right? So we're going to see who the elder gods look like. And this is the part in this video now where we're going to look and we're going to highlight the elder gods. Right? We're going to see, because keep in mind, all what I've said, we got to connect it to slavery, right? We got to make the connections to slavery and why we went to slavery, because from Alexander the Great being the first nasty ass Greek coming in, right? That is the beginning of the wars until 2019. This Alexander the Great marked the start of the so-called wars that have us today, where we're in captive on Caribbean islands and we're in captive in the Americas, in the sun, in Europe, in all parts of the earth, right? We're in captive because of slavery and because of killing and stealing and lynching and robbing and mobbing, you know, and gagging and bashing. All the words that you could think of that relates to cruelty and mischievousness, and demonic, and satanic, and evil, and bad mind, and ungodly. All these words fits the Caucasian race. It fits the white race, right? So we're discussing the elder gods, and we're learning why we went to slavery and what people brought us to slavery and why it happened, right? It boils down to the same outcast priests, because we live for a very long time. So the same way the same outcast priests who sided with the Ptolemies to develop their system out of African system, it's the same way an outcast race of priests, outcast priests, a society of priests, scientists, I should say, went out of Africa. That's what you have called the out of Africa theory, and created mankind. Now, the science started in Africa. And after the science started in Africa, they went out. That's why you find hominids existing in Africa for millions of years before they went out into the outer world. Because the science started in Africa. And then we went into the outer worlds and developed these other races. That's why we have all these different races on their specific mass of land where the origin begins, or where the origin began. You understand? So that's the science of this, that's the science of that. You understand? Yes, that's the science. Remember, Alexander the Great was the first to invade. And they were coming out of the barbarian stage. They were actually in the peak of the barbarian stage. Killing and chopping in lands and conquering and just killing everybody from this different time to step ashore because they have developed weapons and all different type of things because they are warmongers. They developed for hundreds of years in the art of warmongering. So that equipped them with the ability now to go across the land, killing and ripping and pillaging and just wiping out. And just taking charge and just take whatever they get. That's how they became rich. By killing people that was enriched. So they came and killed and took the possessions of the people that were enriched, the people that they took over. And that's how they themselves became rich. And developed systems and placed themselves in factions of politics to get into the system so they self could run for kingdomship. You understand? That's how the Ptolemies became Ptolemies. That's how they became kings of Kemet. You understand? So we learn the science start from Ethiopia, Aksum, all these regions there. This is the high regions of the elder gods. And we're going to see what the elder gods look like. And since we know that generation to generation, this war has been going on from Alexander invading as the first European. You understand? A lot has changed. A lot of people have died and come back for incarnations. Even the elder gods who left from the high regions and came down as one of us to actually come and take us out of this cycle. You understand? That keep repeating itself. That's why God had to come down. Yes, he did come down, but not the way that you think, like the Christian think. He came down from the higher regions, from the unknown, and manifested himself into the known, into the seen, from the unseen to the seen, from the spiritual to the reality. You understand? He made himself manifest and came down into the West to save his people that was brought there through slavery, that was brought there for killing and raping and pillaging and stealing. So the only way to retrieve them, the only way to retrieve the remnants of the elder gods is for the elder gods for themselves to go through the unknown and bring themselves through the physical. Right? As one of us growing in the world that we are presently in, to actually gain access to help us individually. And when I mean individually, I mean to get to each one of us individually to bring us together. You understand? So he came up with the whole concept of bringing us together and reminding us of who we are and where we came from, and what we used to eat, what we used to drink, how we used to walk, how we used to talk, and how we used to keep our spiritual system. You understand? It's a spiritual system where we practice rituals, literal rituals, hand signs and gestures. You understand? The word sounds and drum beating and all these things that we find in Ethiopia. We still find the same things in Ethiopia. So we're going to move on, because I think I made a great point of understanding where we could get a good understanding of what I'm saying, right? So we're going to move on and we're going to highlight the elder gods, and we're going to make the connections, like I was saying. We think the symbols, not the actual beings. We're going to connect the elder gods in the present time to the elder gods in the ancient time, in the old days. We're going to connect them through the symbols, because like I was saying, the flesh changed through process of reincarnation, going back through the cycles, going through the process from the unknown to the known, from the unknown to the known, the flesh will change. You understand? But the symbols and the traditions remain the same. So this is the way we can identify the elder gods. Because keep in mind, religion is only a mere copy of the spiritual concept, the spiritual practice that was being kept by the elder gods. Traditions passed down from Ethiopia down to Kemet, for by way of the River Nile. Right? So we're going to make these connections with the symbols, the high symbols of ancient Ethiopia and Kemet to present day. And we're going to see who in the world carries these symbols everywhere they go within their traditions. And we're going to see who in the world is closest to the Aksum and the Ethiopian tradition, where this cracker from Intias came and invaded and brought his Christianity. He's revised Ethiopian traditions that was made up by the Coptic Egyptians for the Europeans. We're going to see which traditions in 2019 is the closest to the ancient African Coptic Ethiopian traditions, where everything sprung from. We're going to see who is the closest, because there are many religions today who copy of the first spirituality concept. There are many religions. And like I described, the elder gods had to come down and practice that same religion. The world that we live in that has many religions. You understand? So we're going to watch for all these religions, and we're going to see which religion come close to the original religion. And we already know which religion I'm going to pick. It is the religion of the Bobo Shanti, the Ethiopia Africa Black International Congress. It is the closest religion in the whole wide world. When we look throughout all the religions in the world, it is the closest traditions, a practice of spirituality to what the ancient elder gods had. And who created this religion that is so close to the ancient elders god? It is the ancient elder god himself. No one else could create this. It has to be the elder gods who came through. You understand? Into the Western world, came down from the high places, going down to the Western world to free the remnants of the elder gods who have been in captivity, or who have lost, and they have the same captives that have lost their way. You understand? So for them to arise to the level that they need to arise, one of the elder gods need to come down in the low regions to actually manifest themselves in flesh, to go and recover every last one of the remnants of the elder gods. They have to come to the lower regions, to the lower world, to gather the remnants of the elder gods that have been brought down into captivity. They have to travel through the cosmos, the galaxy, through the Milky Way galaxy, and travel out of the star system, out of the galaxy, and go to a next star system, next galaxy, a lower region, where they are brought down into captivity on ships, starships, spaceships. You understand? Travel the seas on ships to gather every last one of the remnants of the elder gods. You understand? That's what's taking place on a high level, in a high, frequency. You understand? So we're going to highlight we're going to highlight everything and we're going to make the connections, right? We're going to make the connections and see the links. We're going to see what is linked to what. So as you could see, this is the Orthodox priest, right? It's the Orthodox priest in Ethiopia, right? This is the time of Emperor Haile Selassie. This is his coronation, part of his coronation, right? So we're going to have a look at that.
Im Mittelpunkt der Feier steht nach uraltem Brauch die Überreichung von kreuzförmig gebundenen Frühlingsblumen durch die
We're going to go back, right?
dass die Priester Segen und Wohlergehen.
So we could see these traditions. The traditions of Ethiopia is still being kept today. We could see the high quality of wear. We still keep the high quality of wear, although the Europeans came in and fused the tradition within the Ethiopian traditions. We still kept our traditions. How do I know this for a fact? Because clothing didn't come from Europeans. The Africans developed the science of clothing, and they developed the highest quality of clothing. The Europeans, all they used to wear was just a cloth, and they wrap themselves with it. You understand? Most times they don't even have clothes. You understand? So that's how I know for a fact that this is the African tradition wear that has passed down from generation to generation, and we know that the Europeans took the science because after they developed the Christianity religion, they took the science out of Africa, went back to Europe with it, and there it flourished, right? And after they went back to Europe with it, there they began their quest for conquering the world. And after that, we know what happened. Slavery and everything took place after that, and they brought out the Bible and they Christianized us and everything, right? So the point I'm sticking to right now is pointing out the traditions of the elder gods and who has the closest tradition of the elder gods. So as we are investigating the wear, this is the same wear where we see in the Council of Ephesus, the type of wear that the high officials they wore, the Coptic Egyptians. That's the same way the black Coptic Egyptians wear. That's the same wear that they gave unto the high official Romans that they took back to Europe. So we're seeing where the Pope and all of them got the design of wear from. So these people are going out there saying that black African people who is practicing Roman turban levity is getting in from the Romans. I mean, if you're going to say that, that means you're mixed up. You don't really know what you're saying. You don't really understand history. The Europeans create nothing. They stole the concepts from the Africans. Every concept that the Europeans have is stolen from the Africans. The Europeans are not the creators of clothes. They are not the creators of wearing clothes. It's the Africans who develop wearing clothes. And the quality of clothes and the aspects of clothes is the Africans. So when you see Rastafari now today practicing Roman turban levity, which is an old ancient concept of Aksum, right? It's an old concept of Ethiopia, traditions how the priesthood dressed. Remember, we were stolen from Africa and brought to the West. Don't you think these traditions will pop out automatically from us and be in our practice? This is why the elder god had to come and revive the traditions of ancient Ethiopia. This is why the Bobo Shanti tradition is very similar to the Aksum and Ethiopian traditions, where we have Roman turban wearing with the rod and everything. This is this ancient symbol. This is the ancients. Remember I said we're going to highlight the symbols. This is one of the symbols. As you can see, every priest has his rod. It's an ancient symbol we see in Kemet, where every king and every pharaoh had his rod and staff, and the ankh also. You understand? So we find all these things in Ethiopia practicing long time. You understand? This is the same tradition we find in Ethiopia, Africa, Black International Congress, which is headed by the president, which is King Emmanuel VII. Adonai God, Jah Rastafari. Yes, King Emmanuel. You know, the Black Christ, Prince Emmanuel Charles Edward. You understand? This is the liberty that he has created in the specific country which is called Jamaica. And that culture flourished from Jamaica into the outer worlds. And this culture that's within Jamaica is the headquarters of the Bobo Shanti culture, which is the Ethiopia Africa Black International Congress. The president is King Emmanuel, Prince Emmanuel Charles Edward, which is King Emmanuel, or Emperor Emmanuel, I should say, because he came from a long-lasting dynasty of emperors, which is linked to Emperor Haile Selassie, which is the last remaining ruling emperor, which is linked to Kemet, where we have all the great pharaohs, all the great kings of Ethiopia, because the tradition was passed from Ethiopia down to Kemet. So it was still being kept and run in Ethiopia, although it was being kept in Kemet at the same time. So this ancient elder god, which is Prince Emmanuel Edwards at that time, he is the elder god who came down from the high places and came to the island that is called Jamaica and put together the tradition which is the Bobo Shanti tradition, a spiritual traditions where they practice and sing hymns, give praises to the elder gods of Ethiopia. And the main objective is freedom, redemption for black people first. The first objective is to free the black people, that the elder gods, the remnants of the elder gods that have been brought them down to the Western world. And his other objectives is to take them back to Africa, where it's their origin, where it's the highland, the high cosmos place where the elder gods are from, so they could return to the high glory of liberty and nation world kingdom and everything that consists of a high civilization that is headed by the creator of this universe. Yes, this universe. The elder gods created the universe. Man, woman, and child is the oldest concept of the creator. You understand? Yes. So this is the same as this. It's the same thing being practiced. It's the same thing because it was brought here by one of the elder gods. It was brought down to the Western world by one of the elder gods, so they could revise the remnants of the elder gods that were brought down here through slavery and killing and raping and murder and all these things. From Alexander the Frick, right? Alexander the Frick. He started the Hellenistic conquest. He started the Hellenistic conquest. Right? So this is where the term hell on earth, right? He started hell on earth. Yeah, he started the hell on earth. So we see who hell belongs to. You know, we see who hell belongs to, right? So it's the same tradition. So let's be this video for a little while. I want to point out some things, right? Same tradition. So as you can see, the book is being placed down on the altar. Right? The book is being placed down on the altar. Right? We have the band, we have the drum song, which is the band, and we have the priest and them, they will be chanting, right? It's the same thing. It's the same thing. Right? We have the priest over there with the book. The priest over there is the book, he's laying the book down. And the priest and them will begin to chant. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. The same thing. It's the same thing. President putting down the book. Understand? The drum sound comes in. Right? And the priest begin to chant. Right? It's the same thing. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. The drum begin to beat. Right? The drum beating. Priest singing. Chanting. It's the same tradition. There's no way around it. There's no way around it. The elder gods came down. It's the same thing, the traditions of the elder gods. Right? And we see coronation, we see they are performing this ritual ceremony for one of the elder gods, which is Emperor Haile Selassie I. You understand? This is to represent him. This is to channel the energy. This is the vibration. This is what creates the chanting and the singing and the sound, the vibration, the melody, and everything. You understand? Because scientists discover a star, and when they discovered this star and they went into this star, discovered the sound this star is giving out. They discovered this star is giving out a drum beating sound. You understand? It's the same drum beating sound that we hear in the ceremonies of giving thanks and praise unto the elder gods. It's the same thing. The stars are singing unto the elder gods. The black star. This is why we have the symbols of the black star, and we find this symbol within the Bobo Shanti culture. They represent man, and we know the stars represent the stars in the galaxy also, and these stars are crying out drum beat sounds. And it's the same drum beat sounds we have the stars who represent man and earth is beating. In a sense, so everything that is happening on the celestial level is happening on the physical level on earth. So as above, so below. So this is the same traditions from the cosmos, the higher land cosmos, that we're practicing on a different planet, a different solar system, which is the Caribbean islands, where the elder god traveled through the cosmos to reach to the lower regions of the cosmos, which is the Caribbean islands, and brought the ancient liberty and revised it and taught us how to be black again, and taught us how to be God and goddesses all over again, and taught us how to be prince and princess, and taught us who God is. And God is a man and a woman and child. The Creator is a man, woman, and child. This is the concept of the Creator is a man, the Creator is a man, the Creator is a woman. The Creator is the sons and daughters of God also. Because the child represents the sons and daughters of God, the sons and daughters of the Creator. The Creator made himself many. We all are one. You understand? That's why we see these two cultures are so alike, because the elder gods came down from the high region and came down to save his people. Right? So we're going to move on and we're going to continue making the connections. Right? We're going to continue because without any doubt, you saw the connections with this. Right? It's the same thing. So we're going to move on. We're not going to stay forever. So we see Emperor Haile Selassie I, the elder god that has come from the unseen to the seen world, where he manifested himself through the ancient monarch system, the ancient system of the kings, right? And he's the last king to reign on the throne, right? The last remaining pharaoh, king, however you want to call it. So he represents the creator God, one of the elder creator gods, right? And we see how he's dressed. He's dressed in the ancient elder gods' way of dressing, the ancient royalty of the gods, right? And we see the symbols. Keep these symbols in mind, because we're going to bring it back up, right? Keep this orb in mind. So we see the garments. So we know Europeans never created clothes. Europeans were savages. All they had was a piece of cloth wrapped around them. So this was not given on to us by the Romans. We existed way before the Romans. We developed science in all factions, like I say. Everything that consists of life, we developed it. So I don't have to point out everything once I have said this. You understand? I don't have to keep repeating myself over and over. You understand? So we have to learn how to grasp things fast. You understand? So we see this. We see this. We see the connections with this on the ancient Coptic priests that was in Kemet who developed the system for the Europeans so they could practice their religion, off of African religion. So the ancient Coptic priests, like I said before, they are the ones who created the system for the Europeans, who created Christianity for the Europeans, and the Europeans spread, in turn came throughout Africa and spread the same Christianity. Right? This is how Ethiopia was influenced with Christianity and Aksum was influenced with Christianity. I went through that already, right? So yes, so back to the elder gods. So this is one of the elder gods who created the universe that we live in. On the multiverse. And the multiverse means I've only came to a factual realization that there's only two verses that I personally know of. Is the seen world and the unseen world. The unseen world is also a universe, like we have the seen world. So as we have a literal universe where we could see, there's also a universe where we cannot see. So this universe is called the Underverse. In this particular movie I mentioned before, this movie is named The Chronicles of Riddick, where they're displaying the Underverse. So this is the Toon universe. The universe that we see with our eyes and the universe that we don't see. Right? So this black god now, this king manifests himself from the unseen to the seen world, where Ethiopia was being invaded on a level that it came to a point that it had to be stopped. They had to stop, the elder gods had to come into play to stop the Ptolemies from invading Ethiopia, for actually conquering Ethiopia, because they have conquered Egypt and many other nations. Now they have not conquered Ethiopia or Aksum, but they invaded, and they are still getting their point across. They are still getting their missionary works across, even though they are not in complete control of this particular area, which is Aksum and Ethiopia, right? So in the 19th, 20th century now, right, whilst one of the elder gods has already come from the high regions, traveling the cosmos, going to a different planet, which is the Western world, trying to save the remnants of the elder gods in that particular part of the cosmos. This elder god in particular now is in the origin point of the heavens, where the elder gods are from, because that place has been attacked also. So he now has to come from the unseen to the seen, and develop and grow to actually defend the Orion constellation. The Orion constellation that is within the Milky Way galaxy, right? The Orion constellation. So this is Ethiopia, the Orion constellation. That's within the Milky Way galaxy, right? So this god now, the elder god now, has to come now and defend the throne of Ethiopia, to refuse the Ptolemies, which is the alien, the alien enforcers, the aliens who came in from a different planet and invaded our planet. Right? These aliens came from a different planet, invaded our planet, which is Ethiopia. Right? And they wanted to conquer. Right? So these other gods had to rise, came in reincarnation in the new world, now had to rise and defend Ethiopia to prevent the Ptolemies from taking over the entire world, which is the entire universe. Right? So this God defended the entire universe, right? From the invaded aliens, right? That was created within that same universe, right? So this is the role that this elder God played on planet Earth in the 19th going to the 20th century, right? He rose the African armies against the European armies, the European alien armies that came with the forces unannounced into the highlands, killing and ripping and pillaging and killing everything in their sight, to control the whole universe, right? So give thanks for Emperor Haile Selassie I. You understand? One of the elder gods who defended the universe, planet Earth. So whilst we have one God that gone through the galaxies, different planet, you understand, where some of the elder god remnants has taken, this God is taking control of the main area, the main headquarters of the heaven, higher lands. And we have a next God now that has gone to the same different planet, outside planet, which is the Western world, and announce the coming of one of the elder gods. So 3 elder gods in all that I have mentioned that has traveled. So 2 has traveled, 1 has remained, right? So they are in 3 different lands at the same time, because different remnants of the elder gods have scattered and burst throughout the universe, throughout the galaxies, right? So they gotta go on different points to gather them, to bring them to a one point central mind thought pattern, that all of them could come together as one God, one aim, one destiny, to find themselves back to the mainland where this elder God resides, right? So this is the whole connection. This is the whole connection with all what black people are going through today. I'm giving you all the full comprehension of the whole connection of what we are going through today, right? This is the whole thing. So we're going to move on, right? So we have described the elder God. Now don't forget the empress, the goddess. She's one of the elder goddesses too. She's one of the elder gods, one of the elder goddesses, right? Woman is a god too. Woman is God, man is God. None of them is God by themselves. The concept of God is them being together. Life is the reality of them always being together. There is no reality with them not being together. So this is the whole totality of the Creator, right? Whole totality of the Creator. This is the image of the totality of the Creator, right? This is the full aspect of life, man, woman, and child. Man, woman, child, right? So I'm gonna be black, right? I'm gonna be black. So yes, I'm black. So we're gonna continue making the connections, right? So you see he's holding the scepter right here, and he has the orb. And we see it's the same thing that we see here. Right? Same thing that we see here. Let me see if I could find the specific pic. As you could see, he has his scepter and he has his orb. Now this is the Council of Ephesus. This is the Council of Ephesus, right? And as you can see, the traditions of Ethiopia is being kept highly in the time period where the Coptic Egyptian priests taught the Ptolemies, right? You could see the garment where they kept the traditions of the wear, right? They kept the traditions, right? So you could see the scepter and the orb. So this shows you this is a tradition from Ethiopia. It's originally from Ethiopia, passed down to Kemet, the Coptic Orthodox Church in Ethiopia, Coptic Egyptian priests, the same thing. It's the same thing. It's been passed down. And this is the same concept that the Ptolemies took. Same concept that the Pope today, 2019, the same traditions that they're keeping. But they have revised it and transformed it to fit them. But we know where it comes from. It comes from the elder gods. Right? It comes from the elder gods. Right? Where is the video? Where is the clip? It comes from the elder gods. Right? It comes from the elder gods. Same thing. Same thing. It's the same thing. Same thing. Orb, scepter, same thing. The orb, the scepter. So you see where the tradition comes from. Ancient Africa. Emperor Haile Selassie kept the traditions. Right? He kept the remnants. You know, he kept the traditions. He manifested the traditions of the elder god, proving himself to be one of the elder gods who defended the highlands, the cosmos, the Orion system that's within the Milky Way galaxy, right? So we're going to move on. We're going to move on. So as you can see, the Milky Way galaxy, this is the River Nile from a light view. Some parts of it is exactly like the Milky Way galaxy until we get to that bend. There's a bend in a particular area. But apart from that, this bend now, you could trace it exactly like the Milky Way galaxy. So this mirror the Milky Way galaxy. And all along the Milky Way galaxy now, we have all the different solar systems, right? And all the different planets within the solar systems. So when we are treading the lands of Africa, we are actually treading the cosmos. You understand? So, like you heard, you just heard I explain. So you understand that already, right? So we're gonna move on. So we're gonna continue making the connections. So we recognize the orb and the scepter. It's an old tradition kept by the elder gods and passed down. So we're gonna make the connection and see who today has these scepters and what should I call it? It's actually a device. It's actually a high censored device. This has frequency to it. You understand? So this is, as you could see, as we could see, everybody every priest have their scepter. It's tradition that has been kept. In Bobo Shanti, we all have our role and our staffs. It's a tradition that has been kept. You understand? Tradition that has been kept. So we're going to continue to make the connections, right? We're going to look for all the symbols, right? All the symbols. So as we could see, is Newton Geb, right? The stars. So we have in the boats traveling the celestial stars. The same boats traveling the celestial Niles. You know, it's a perfect replica. You know, Newton Geb, you know, was once, they had sex and created air. You know, the sun is in there also within the atmosphere. You understand? We understand the whole science of this, so we won't stay too long on this, you know, but I just highlighted to show the same concept of traveling the celestial Nile. We see the boats of the elder gods, they're traveling the celestial seas, celestial waters, the celestial Niles, you understand? The same thing. You see the stars in there, represent all the different, you know. So we're gonna move on. So we'll play this video. So yeah, this is just a video on, you know, the River Nile from a satellite point of view. Sorry. So we're not going to stay too long in that because we have build on that already, you understand? So yes, so we're going to go to what the elder gods really look like. So we have seen Emperor Selassie. You understand? I mentioned King Emmanuel, Prince Emmanuel Edwards, and we're going to see we're going to see the resemblance, right? We're going to see the resemblance that King Emmanuel has. Right? We're going to see the resemblance. So we see King Emmanuel, one of the elder gods that came down, right? He came down, he came with the tradition of the Bobo Shanti. He is the president of the tradition of the Bobo Shanti. Right? We are Bobo Shanti because of King Emmanuel. This is the elder god that has come down and traveled out of the constellation of Orion. You understand? And come and go out through the how do you call it again? Solar systems onto a different planet where his elder gods, the remnants of the elder gods was brought into captivity, into slavery. He came with the traditions of the original traditions of the elder gods and reminded them who they were because they were brought through slavery and the whole memory was wiped out. The whole memory of who they are and the traditions were wiped out. So the elder god had to come down through the celestial realms, going through the galaxies, jumping on this planet right here, which is the Western world, and setting up the order to free his people and bring them into remembrance of the tradition, right? And how do we know he's the elder god? Because he carries the symbol. Because from time to time, the elder god's physiognomy will change, but the symbols always remain the same. The traditions always remain the same. So this is why we are able to identify this elder. We are able to identify him as one of the elder gods who came down to bring us back to the high regions, to the high Orion system, right? Within the Milky Way galaxy, right? So the elder god now, he has a symbol of ancient Kemet, and he has a symbol of ancient Ethiopia. Like you see, everyone has a scepter, and this is one of the symbols that we see all over Kemet. As you could see, the ancient depiction of this guy right here, Anubis. As you could see, he has the same symbol. Just the same symbol, because the symbol has passed down onto Kemet. And this elder god is from the high region of Ethiopia. And the knowledge from Ethiopia went down to Kemet. So when we look into Kemet now, we could see the symbols of this. Right? The Kemet have the symbols of this. And we could see all the symbols. It's the same thing. That's where they got it from. Ethiopia is the same thing. So this is a perfect sign to indicate that this is one of the elder gods who came to save the remnants of the elder gods. Right? So he bears the symbol, he carries the symbols, and he also fits the tradition, meaning that the work that he carried out, the things that he said, the principles, you understand, and things that he put together, it was the perfect representation of Ethiopia, Africa, traditions of the elder gods. So you could see in Kemet, they all have depictions. So you could see this elder god, all his pics, he has the symbol. You see all the pics of this elder god, he has the symbols to show who he is. We will recognize the elder gods by the symbols and the traditions that they keep. And this particular elder god now, because remember, it's a company of gods who came down. It's a company of gods, not one. You know, the God is many. He made himself many. We are the sons and daughters of God, so we all are one. So this particular elder god now He has a symbol. He has a symbol. So he's the one who carries the symbol through this planet that we are on, which is the Western world. He carries a symbol throughout all his pics. There's no mistaking it. So those who was in the Bobo Shanti tradition and who have left and are figuring out that, this might not be the one, I think that you got to think again. Because I think that you have missed all the connections. All the connections that is playing there. So it makes no sense that you pick piece of the truth and you run away with it and try to mold up your own God with it, not knowing that you will be missing out on the whole picture. You understand? Because you need the whole totality to actually get the energy transmitted to you. You understand? So yeah, so you gotta revise. You understand? Because this is the elder God that has come back to free the remnants of the elder gods that was brought down to the Western world by the Ptolemies, by the white crackers, by the white homosexual crackers that was created in Europe and these other places. And they were created by the outcast section of priests that broke out from the main branch and went out with all the sciences to create mankind. So this is how mankind was created, by the black Africans. Right? Here, the elder gods, the sons of gods who came down from the elder gods created mankind. Yeah. So in this video you're getting the whole history. Right? You're getting the whole thing put into one. You're getting how mankind was created, the creation, you understand? And Christianity and everything. So we're going to move on, right? We're going to move on. So with any shadow of doubt, right? With any shadow of a doubt, you can clearly see that we made the connections. It's the same thing. It's the same thing, right? The same thing. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. The same thing. Right? It's the same thing. It's the same thing. Atom. Now, Atom, he's the God that created other gods. He's the unknown, the unseen. He came from the unknown, the none. Right? The none is the primary of waters. Right? The plasma. The liquid plasma, the liquid matter. Right? The atom came out of that none. Right? From the unknown. Now the woman is the gateway for God to come through. You know, woman is in control of part of creation where God's come through. So don't take the woman out of the whole concept and just run away with her and just turn her into your God and leave out the whole lot and leave out everything else and claim she's God alone and you leave everything else out. You're just turning everything upside down. You understand? Because you have to connect everything. We have to have all the connections to actually get the energy and the power that we need to get to actually control and bring black supremacy throughout the solar system, into galaxies, into the universe, right? So Atom, from the unknown. So to show you now, I'm going to highlight the movie. This movie is called Chronicle of Riddick. So I'm going to highlight the movie Riddick, where we're going to see how Europeans have overfought. The Europeans and them have overfought these signs so much that, and what's going on so much that they make movies based upon where they want to see themselves, or they make movies based upon where they at right now, or things that happened in the past, or mythological stories, or they make movies based on everything, right? They make movies based on everything. So we're going to go into the movie of Riddick, right? The movie of Riddick. So we have, with any shadow of a doubt, we have showed you who the elder gods are. The only elder god I didn't show you was the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. And we're gonna highlight him in the next video, right? So we're gonna go into this movie where it's called Riddick, and we're gonna show how the Europeans now, the Ptolemies, we're gonna show you how they are seeing things and how they're describing these things in their movies, and we could see how far how far these Ptolemies meditation go when it comes to what's happening on planet Earth and all the destruction they have caused and where they are looking to go. Right? Now this movie Riddick, right? I'm gonna play it for a short while.
Let's go replenish the ranks.
Never fails to inspire, does it? My place is at your side, dear husband. From here till Underverse come.
Into the natural state. Here, humans in all their various races, guided mistake. Our purpose is to correct that mistake. A verse where life is welcomed, cherished.
I'm going to explain this thing right here. Now this thing in the movie Chronicle of Riddick, right? There is this conqueror named Vaco. Now Vaco has gone for the Underverse. He's the only one to have gone for the Underverse. Now keep in mind that I said there is a universe, the seen universe and the unseen universe. Both of them are universes, right? So Vaco now, he has traveled to the Underverse. And you will learn that the Underverse that he's speaking, in order to get to that Underverse, you have to go through the thing they call death, right? So Vaco is the only one who has gone for death and come back to be a god. So he's part death, part life, right? So Vaco now, since he has traveled to the Underverse, he has picked up all the sciences of the Underverse, and he has came back with powers. So he knows how to take, he knows the sciences of the spiritual world, right? He knows the sciences of the spiritual world. So keep in mind that I'm describing the Europeans and how they see themselves advancing in the war that we're fighting right here on Earth, right? So this is a perfect example of what's going on, right? And how they see themselves in the future. Now Vaco now since that Vaco has become a god, Vaco is traveling through the celestial realms, the cosmos, traveling from galaxy to galaxy within the universe, killing and pillaging, meaning that he's converting, he's killing. If you don't accept, he will convert you. So he's a god, he's traveling from planet to planet, converting people. So he's arrived at this particular planet, right? I can't remember the planet name, but it's in the movie. And he has arrived and he's planning to convert these people, right? Now, in this movie now, there's this next character, he's called Riddick. Riddick is the main character of this movie. Now, Riddick plays the Centurion, I think. He plays the Centurion. I think the Centurions are I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing the word correctly, but something like that. So Riddick plays the role of these people that has been wiped out by Vaco. And there is this woman that plays the Oracle also that comes to remind Riddick that he's from a race of people that has been wiped out. And he's the original king of the universe. And he has to reclaim his throne by taking down Vaco, which is claiming to be the only half dead that has gone through the Underverse and come back and now has become a god. Right? So I'm about to describe the Underverse. Now the Underverse is the unseen world, where we have in ancient African tradition in Kemet where it's called the Nun, the unknown, the liquid matter, where the god Atom come out of. He's the unknown. He came from the unknown, what you cannot see. So this is the same realm where Vaco went. So the Europeans now playing the role of the elder gods, The Europeans playing the role of the elder gods in this movie. Right? They're conquering people throughout the galaxy, throughout the solar system, the universe. So they have become God, right? So this movie is actually showing you that in reality, in this movie, the Europeans have reached to such a level that they have a level of science that they have gone into the underworld, which is the underverse, which is the unseen world where God is, and have become God. And have wiped out the original people that is the real God, right? They have erased and extinct the remnants of the elder gods, which is the same race really comes from, right? Yeah, so he's playing the role of the creator, the role of God. So this is the advancement the Europeans have seen themselves in life, and they're making a movie out of it. So you're seeing themselves in time to come in a way advanced state where they have gone through the underworld. This is why they have CERN. CERN is where they have long pipes, and these pipes has the smallest particle, where these particles are accelerating to a high level, and they're clashing into each other and being broken into smaller particles, so they could find out where the smallest particles come from. So they're destroying the smallest of the smallest particles to find out where they come from, to see if they will find God, because they want to discover the unseen world. So in this movie, they are showing that they have already discovered the unseen world and come back as the only have the God, and they are conquering the whole galaxy. They're conquering the whole universe. He's becoming the God of the whole universe. So you see God is a man. So they're showing that they are actually performing this in this movie. Now Riddick now is the original remnants of the elder gods, and he's the last remaining fighting warriors of the gods. Now he happened to be on a planet where Varko came to take over, right? And there's this woman, which is a psychic. She's from I think they call her the not Centurions, but what name they call her in the movie? I can't remember the name. I forget the name every time. But this woman, she's the one to give Riddick strength and give him information and make him realize that he is the long-lasting remnant of the elder gods, and he has to fight Vargo to take the crown. Right? So I'm saying all this to show that the crackers know exactly what's going on. You understand? They know exactly what's going on with us and the war that we're fighting from since Alexander the Great traveled from the lower range of the cosmos and came on to the higher level of the cosmos and started to invade and started to take over. They understand the science of what's going on. The only people that don't understand is the people that are enslaved, which is the black African in the Western worlds and in the Americas. And the only people who are fighting for freedom and redemption and repatriation to go back to the higher lands are the people they call the Rastafari. In particular and specifically the Bobo Shanti, the Ethiopia Africa Black International Congress, the people that represent that, the class of priests and prophets that represent that culture. And the head of that culture is the elder god King Emmanuel Charles Edwards, which came from the high region that come down to the low region, the Western world, to develop the culture, to bring us back into remembrance of the high culture of the elder gods. So the Europeans know exactly what's going on. So they're actually showing in this movie that they're coming from the only European to go through the underverse. So let's continue within the video.
Ravishing, but the road to that verse crosses over the threshold.
Death.
So it is this.
So the movie is skipping, right? So what he is saying, like he's saying, the only way to the threshold to get to the underverse is through death, right? And the white cracker is the only one that went through death and come back. So we know where they get it from. They get it from the Christ, because Christ links to the elder gods. He's the one part of the elder gods. He's the only one that comes from the unseen world, the place where this cracker went. He went through death. Death is the unseen world, the spiritual world, you know. So this is the same place Atom comes from, the unseen world, the spiritual world. You understand? So let's continue.
Verse that must be cleansed of
So he's saying the only way he could get to there is through death. So that's why he goes around converting and killing people and making him go through the process to actually go to the underverse. Because underverse is actually the universe, the unseen universe. We have the seen universe and the unseen universe.
Life.
Right, so let's continue.
Look around you. Every necromonger in this hall was once like you.
Fought as feebly as you. Every necromancer.
We all began as something else.
So
It was hard for...
let me just highlight.
I let them take away my pain.
You betrayed your faith.
Just as you, the underverse will be crossed only by those who have embraced the necromonger faith. For those of
So I'm gonna pause for a while, right? It seems that I have the wrong video, so I wanted to make a next point. But it seems that I have the wrong video, right? So seems that I have the wrong video. Alright? Seems that I have the wrong video. But yeah, so I'm gonna end this video. Alright? I'm going to end this video right now, so give thanks for the coming in. This is Lord Sage, Sage of the Seven Powerful, Lord of the Perfect Black. So we have totally, with any shadow of a doubt, prove and show who are the elder gods. And we give all the basic on high evidence of connecting the elder gods from ancient time until the present day 2019. We give you all the evidence, you know, and I mean, understand? So we give thanks, you know. Stay tuned for the next episode, you know. Give thanks.